There are certain names in Hollywood that feel almost mythical, names that carry a kind of magic, a grace, and a history that seems to stretch far beyond the screen. Diane Keaton was one of those names. For over 50 years, she charmed, inspired, and captivated audiences with her wit, her fearless authenticity, and her inimitable sense of style. But behind the glamour, behind the effortless laughter and the sharp intelligence, there was always something more. A quiet kindness, an unshakable loyalty, and a heart that never stopped giving. And in her final act, even as the lights of Hollywood dimmed, Diane Keaton made sure that her legacy of love would continue. She left $5 million, not to a person, not to a foundation, but to her golden retriever, Reggie. At first glance, it sounds eccentric, a quirky decision fit for someone whose career thrived on individuality. But when you look closer, you begin to see that this wasn't about extravagance. It was about love, pure, uncomplicated love. When Diane Keaton passed away on October 11th, at the age of 79, the world mourned the loss of a legend. To her millions of fans, she was the embodiment of charm and courage, a woman who redefined what it meant to be both vulnerable and strong. But for those who knew her best, she was something even rarer, a woman whose compassion extended to everyone, especially those who could never say, "Thank you." That's where Reggie comes in. Diane met Reggie in 2020, in the quiet isolation of the pandemic. The world had slowed down. The streets of Los Angeles felt empty. And like so many of us, Diane was searching for comfort, for companionship, for something that felt alive and real. She found that in Reggie, a golden retriever with big eyes and a bigger heart, rescued from an uncertain fate at a local shelter. From the moment she met him, she was smitten. Friends recall how her voice softened whenever she spoke about him. "He's the love of my life," she once said, half-jokingly, but everyone could tell she meant it. Reggie quickly became part of her daily rhythm, her morning walks through Beverly Hills, her quiet evenings spent reading scripts, even her Instagram feed, where she showed him money is structured as a trust, ensuring Reggie will live out his days in comfort, surrounded by familiar caretakers, in a private home with space to roam and play. But it doesn't stop there. The trust also funds ongoing donations to animal welfare organizations in Diane's name, a continuation of her lifelong mission to protect those who cannot protect themselves. To the casual observer, it might sound like the plot of a Hollywood movie, the glamorous actress leaving her fortune to her pet. But to those who knew Diane Keaton, it's an entirely fitting ending. Simmons throughout her life, Keaton was never one to follow convention. She wore men's suits to award shows when everyone else wore sequins. She turned awkwardness into charm, silence into statement, and eccentricity into elegance. In interviews, she'd often laugh about her quirks, calling herself a little weird. But behind that humor was an unwavering confidence, a belief that you should live life entirely on your own terms. And that's exactly what she did. Born Diane Hall in Los Angeles in 1946, she grew up dreaming of the stage. Her breakout came with Woody Allen's Annie Hall, a film that not only earned her an Academy Award, but also cemented her as a cultural icon. The film's signature look, the baggy pants, the tie, the oversized hat, was hers, not the costume department's. It was Diane's way of saying, "I'm not here to blend in." Her career flourished. The Godfather, Reds, Manhattan, Father of the Bride, Something's Gotta Give. And with every role, she brought a kind of authenticity that made audiences feel they weren't watching a performance, they were watching a person. But away from the cameras, Keaton's life was guided by passion and empathy. She became deeply involved in historic preservation and architecture, restoring old homes and advocating for conservation. And she quietly championed countless causes, among them animal welfare.
For over 20 years, she worked closely with the Helen Woodward Animal Center in Southern California, a nonprofit dedicated to rescuing and rehoming animals. Mike Arms, the organization's longtime president, remembers her as more than a celebrity spokesperson. She was a friend, a collaborator, and a rescuer in her own right. "Anytime I needed something," Arms recalled in a recent interview, a PSA, a documentary voiceover, a fundraising event, I'd call her, and she'd say, "Okay, Mike, I'll fit it in." And that was it. No negotiation, no ego. She cared. He described her as a genuine person, emphasizing how rare that is in an industry built on appearances. She wasn't one of those people who give you the lift but don't mean it. Diane really cared. Keaton's involvement went far beyond public appearances. Arms shared stories of how she'd spot stray animals on the street and call the shelter personally. "I'd get these calls. 'Mike, I found a dog. Can you come get it?' And of course we'd go." That was Diane, always watching out for the ones who couldn't ask for help. Her compassion for animals was something that touched everyone she met. On social media, tributes poured in not only from fans and colleagues but from rescue workers and volunteers who had crossed paths with her in unexpected moments. One of the most touching stories came from Deity Animal Rescue, an organization that helps save stray dogs in Los Angeles. A couple of years ago, Diane Keaton saw me trying to help a stray dog running down Sunset Boulevard. She pulled over, grabbed a bag of treats from her car, and spent the next 2.5 hours on foot with me. Sadly, we never caught the pup. But I walked away knowing I had just spent the afternoon with the very best of humans. There's something quietly poetic about that, the image of one of Hollywood's biggest stars walking down Sunset Boulevard, not in heels or sunglasses, but with dog treats in hand, chasing after a frightened stray. No cameras, no publicity, just kindness. And maybe that's the real story here. The will, the money, the headlines, they're symbols, yes, but the truth of Diane Keaton's legacy isn't written in numbers. It's written in moments like that, in the gentle way she lived, in the laughter she shared, and in the love she gave so freely. Friends say that in her later years, Keaton found profound peace in her simple routines. She spent much of her time at home, surrounded by her art, her architecture books, and of course, Reggie. She loved mornings. Coffee in hand, sunlight streaming through her Spanish-style windows, Reggie sprawled across the floor. Her friends and children often joke that he was the most spoiled dog in California, and she'd just smile and say, "He deserves it." To her, animals weren't property. They were souls. She believed they felt the same emotions humans did: joy, fear, loneliness, and love. And she often said that animals brought out the best in people, forcing them to be gentle, patient, and present. Perhaps that's why she connected with Reggie so deeply. After years of living in the spotlight, perhaps he was her quiet place, a reminder of something pure. When the news of her passing broke, tributes poured in from across the entertainment world. Co-stars, directors, and fans alike remembered her laugh, that iconic, unfiltered laugh, and her warmth. But among the hundreds of messages, many mentioned Reggie, too. People wanted to know, what would happen to him? Who would care for the dog that had captured Diane's heart? The answer came soon after. Reggie was safe. He would remain in the home he shared with her, cared for by trusted staff and friends, funded by the estate she had lovingly arranged. The home would be kept quiet, private, a sanctuary of the kind Keaton always loved. The $5 million trust ensures that Reggie's needs, food, veterinary care, companionship, will be met for the rest of his life. But beyond that, a portion of the funds will go toward the continued support of animal charities, helping thousands of other animals in need. In that sense, Reggie's inheritance isn't just for him. It's for all the creatures Diane cared about. It's a poetic full circle. A woman who dedicated her life to storytelling, now leaving behind a story that speaks louder than words. For many, the gesture has sparked reflection about the nature of love and legacy. Some might see it as extravagant, but those who understand Keaton's life know it was simply consistent, a natural extension of her spirit. She was never afraid to be unconventional. She was never afraid to follow her heart. In Hollywood, where image often overshadows truth, Diane Keaton stood as a reminder that authenticity is the most beautiful thing a person can wear. Her friends recall that she used to joke about her great loves, her children, her longtime friend and co-star Al Pacino, her passion for architecture, and her dog. And maybe that list says everything you need to know about her priorities. Even in her humor, there was wisdom. In interviews, when asked about aging, she often said she found joy in the little things, in laughter, in friendship, in creativity, and in her animals. "We spend so much time worrying about how to live forever," she once said. "But maybe what matters more is how we love right now." That quote, like so many of her words, feels timeless, because that's exactly what she did. She loved right now. She loved loudly, freely, and without reservation. If you ever met her, even once, people say you felt it. The warmth, the curiosity, the genuine interest. She wasn't one of those stars who made you feel small. She made you feel seen, and that same quality extended to how she treated animals. Not as accessories, not as pets, but as equals in spirit. Reggie, her heart on 4 legs, became both her comfort and her muse. There are countless photos of them together. Her arm wrapped around him, both looking at the camera with that same quiet contentment. In those images, you see everything: joy, peace, love, and a kind of understanding that goes beyond words. Even now, months after her passing, fans continue to post tributes online, sketches, letters, and photos of their own pets under the hashtag #Knocker4Diane and Reggie. Many write about how her story inspired them to adopt, to volunteer, or to donate to shelters. It's incredible, really, how one woman's simple act of kindness can ripple outward and touch so many lives. In an industry built on spectacle, Diane Keaton's final gesture wasn't flashy. It was deeply human. She didn't build monuments to herself. She built compassion into the fabric of her legacy. Somewhere tonight, in a sunlit California home, Reggie lies curled on his favorite blanket, the same one that once sat by Diane's chair. Maybe he doesn't understand where she went, or why her voice no longer fills the rooms. But perhaps in that mysterious way animals feel love. He knows she's still with him, in the scent that lingers on the pillow, in the quiet kindness of the people who now care for him, and in the warmth of the home she built for him, and maybe that's the truest measure of a life well lived. To leave behind love that doesn't fade when you're gone. As the sun sets on Diane Keaton's remarkable life, her story reminds us of something simple but profound. We are defined not by what we take, but by what we give. She gave laughter to the world, art to the screen, and unconditional love to those who needed it most. From her children to her fans, from the lost animals she rescued to one very special dog named Reggie. In a business where fame can be fleeting, kindness lasts forever. Diane Keaton showed us that style and sincerity can coexist, that aging is not something to fear, but to celebrate, and that love, in all its forms, is the greatest legacy of all. Perhaps her story isn't really about a fortune or a will or even a dog. Perhaps it's about what it means to live with an open heart, to see beauty in imperfection, and to care deeply, unapologetically, and unconditionally. In the end, she gave us one last performance, not on screen, but in life, reminding us that compassion never goes out of fashion. As the final notes fade and the screen dims, we're left with one simple truth: the greatest roles are the ones we play off stage, in the quiet moments, in the small acts of love, in the choices we make when no one is watching. And for Diane Keaton, that role was played beautifully, right until the end.